Welcome, I'm David.
I'm Lindsay,
And this is Desmonds Donders. Hello, and welcome to a Wednesday waffle. And I've been asked a question about how many days we can do off-grid. So that's going to be the subject of today's waffle. And the question of off-grid needs defining first. For us, off-grid isn't just doing away without the orange cable, but being sat on a campsite. We what is known as wild camping, but it's not wild camping, especially by Scotland standards. Scotland's wild camping is walking into the hills with a tent or tarp or some sort of bivvy. But off-grid camping that we do in some out of the way places, some places by villages and very rarely by towns. And I don't think we've ever been close to a city. Anyway, what limits your off-grid time? Well, there's one big limitation, and we'll come to that, and there's lots of other limitations. Let's start with what's right in front of me. Cooking. One of the things that limits us is the availability of LPG gas. That recently has become very expensive, but still we use the refillable, which is not as expensive as the, shall we say, the main suppliers, not to name names. The gas is expensive, but we use it for cooking and heating and hot water. We no longer use it for the fridge. That is broken. It works on electric and 12 volts, but not on gas. And we've actually found how much gas it uses. So once the pot grows big enough, we will probably switch to a 12 volt compressor. We are currently using it via an inverter and the solar panels and batteries. We'll come back again to that. But your gas is your one limitation. You can always move to get more gas. Another limitation is your black waste, your toilet. There are more and more places where you can go to empty this without having to use or resorting to a public toilet. Now, provided you use non-blue, as in non-formaldehyde type, you should have no problems taking your black waste to any of the dump stations that are bringing up, or for that matter, a public toilet. But some of them do object, and yet there's nothing in a chemical toilet, if you're using the right chemicals, that isn't in your waste and goes to the same place. It's good enough for your household waste. Surely it's good enough just because it's in a plastic bucket. And another thing we do to extend our time off-grid and having to move to find somewhere to empty the black waste is we take a second cassette with us. And we carry that in a sealed plastic box so that when it's full, we can put it in that box, the full one in the box, and it doesn't fill the van with pleasant smells when it invariably leaks. Not the box, but the toilet cassette. We've never had one, even from new, that hasn't leaked when left to its own devices, whether by overpressure or whatever. They may have improved them, but who knows. We take two, and that's what we do about black waste. The other thing that comes from there is grey waste. Same thing, more and more places to empty it. I'm not going to get into the fact that provided you're away from water sources, etc., etc., there should be no problem getting rid of grey waste into a hedgerow, but some people get antsy about it, so But you can get rid of it at the same place as your black waste these days. There's loads of them springing up all around the country and Scotland. So grey waste shouldn't be a problem. The thing I would worry about with grey waste and fresh water is the size of the tanks. Now we're lucky, we have a 110 litre freshwater tank and we have a 100 litre wastewater tank. It kind of means we've got to drink at least 10 litres of tea, and that's the reason we do it. And if you believe that, you believe absolutely anything. We're lucky enough to have those bigger tanks. We've looked at some of the things we would be interested in maybe as a replacement, and their tanks are just too small for what we need. So that's the fresh water. We can make fresh water last 4 to 6 days. It all depends how careful you are with washing, cleaning, both yourself and the plates, and how much you drink. And that, I mean, with us, tea, and others, it'll be coffee. Excuse me. So that covers sort of most of the things that you need. But does it? Food, same thing. Diesel, same thing. Make sure you've got enough for where you're planning to go. Now your fridge, freezer might keep stuff, but we normally end up having to go somewhere to top up. And yeah, it's not a problem. Fresh stuff is the biggest problem, obviously. But the fridge, it's a large fridge, it does us fine. The thing with diesel, make sure you've got enough not just to get where you're going, but to get back again, because there might not be somewhere to fill up. In Scotland, you're never really far from a filling station. For all you see the things about the NC 500 and there's nowhere to get fuel. I can think of a dozen right off the top of my head, and while a few of them are slightly off the NC 500, that's no bad thing. And you won't always pay more than a supermarket at these places. Go take a look next time you're doing the NC 500 in Nothing Flat. You don't really have to worry about it unless you're going up into the hills and you're low-ish on diesel. I always make sure that we top up before we go anywhere, just in case. The main thing that's going to limit your stay is your batteries. Not the engine battery, as that should be isolated from your leisure battery or batteries. So I'm going to describe our system and what it does for us. We have 3 110 amp hour batteries. That's for leisure use only, not for the cab. The engine has its own battery as per normal. We do feed this via the normal split charger that was fitted, but that's no good if you're not going anywhere, is it? We have on the roof 2 solar panels. Each one is 160 watts, giving us 320 watts on the roof. They are in parallel. The reason they're in parallel, for me, at the moment and currently, I've settled on parallel purely because if one of them is completely shaded by a tree, we get full power from the other one. If they're in series, if you've got the wrong kind of panel and one is shaded by a tree, you won't get anything. They're both cut off. If you've got the right kind of panel, you will, but that's for selection of panels, etc. And that I'm going to leave as a personal choice to anybody who's watching this, purely because there's so many arguments about whether you should go mono or non-mono, or I can't even remember what's up there. I think they're mono, but I'd have to go and look. In fact, now I think about it, perhaps they're not. Okay, and continuing on. So what do we do with all that solar power? Well, it runs via a Victron MPPT solar charger. And why do I have that? Because I've had loads of cheap ones over the years, and the operative word is loads. I've blown them up. They're supposed to take the current I'm delivering. No, they don't do it. None of the Victron, everybody will have their argument again on this one, but Victron are the best as far as I'm concerned. I don't have their shunt, and I don't have their battery monitor. Why? Because I had a cheap one, a cheap shunt. I mean, a shunt is really only a lump of metal, a known lump of metal. That feeds into a meter which tells me current, etc, etc. I don't use it all the time. I use it when we notice something wrong. Yeah. Anyway, that runs down to charge the 3 110 amp hour batteries. In winter, the longest we have been away, this is Christmas, New Year and a bit, is 3 weeks, 21 days, might even be 22, but I'm not running in to check the diary. 21 days with this setup in winter in the north of Scotland. When we arrived home, or even before we left to drive home, the batteries were still in tip-top condition, had a good charge on them, probably about 80–90%, and were doing their job. That's the setup. We have been away for much longer in a caravan. We did a tour of 5 weeks when Lindsay finished her college, passed her exams, etc., adult education, and we just went on tour, disappeared off. I used accumulated leave, and Lindsay, Craig was young, out of school, and we did that. And that was a similar sort of setup, smaller solar, only one battery, but it was summer. In the summer we have power to spare. Not that we waste it, of course. But that's our setup. If you want to ask any questions, please ask them below. And as people who follow the channel know, we're away for as much time as we can be, with Lindsay's still working over winter, and we've not got any trouble whatsoever. It's how you use what you've got. I've weaned Lindsay down from having subtropical temperatures in the van in winter to having a reasonable temperature. Now we're still about what's reasonable, but that doesn't half cut your gas usage down. The water isn't on constantly, it's on for half an hour before we need it. It's easy to plan little things so that you're not wasting gas, battery, water, etc. Yeah. As I say, if you have any questions about the setup, ask them. In fact, if you've got any other questions that might make a waffle, ask them. No problem in giving my opinion. Savings on electricity, we don't really need them. But remember, you've got things in your van that use the most power. Pumps. Yeah? Be it a pump for your fresh water, hot water, same pump. Flushing the toilet. For some people, that can be the same pump, or there's a second pump, like we had. And I say had, because one of the things we had to do or we did on our caravan, was remove the electric pump broke, and at the time the cost of an electric pump and the cost of a manual pump was ridiculous. It's something like £75 and a tenner. So first thing we did in Desmond, put in a manual pump, and that saves a pump running. Your overcooker fans, you know, for drawing out the air. But you'll notice there's a window by your cooker normally, your kitchen area. Open the window, have a door open. Even crack it open in the winter. It's not going to be open for long while a pot steams away or something like that. Extractor fan, that's the word I was looking for. Anybody want a used brain? Hardly used, in fact. Anyway, this time I'm going. I hope you've enjoyed what I've had to say, and if I haven't waffled on for far too long, there'll be some drone footage. If I have waffled on for too long, there won't be. And I hope it's answered your questions, the person that asked me, and feel free to ask any more. And if anybody's got any others or another subject, ask away.
Thank you for watching Desmonds Donders. And remember, please take nothing but memories and leave nothing but tracks. Please subscribe and ring the bell for notifications, and hopefully we'll see you next time.